Hey, this is Shaun with the Atlanta Tennis Podcast, powered by Go Tennis. Check out our calendar of Metro Atlanta tennis events at letsgotennis.com. And if you're a fan of Bull Shark Sports, go to shop.letsgotennis.com and get yourself a hoodie or a hat. Ben, we got to find some baseball socks or something unique in there. We'll set
Yeah, there
that
you
up when we
go.
get there.
Yeah, with a big bull shark on. That'd be cool.
Exactly. Also, we want to hear your story on the podcast. You had something fun that happened, something crazy, something exciting. Did you win and it was amazing, or you lost and it was embarrassing? One of my favorite stories is my first USTA tournament. I didn't win a game. Both matches I played 0-0 in the main draw, 0-0 I lost in the back draw, crying and said I need to go back and get to work. But that's different from my tweener in the city finals. You know, we've all got stories. We want to hear from you. So tell us your stories. We want to hear it. You might even have your story featured on the Atlanta Tennis Podcast. Today, this is Youth Sports Talk with Coach Ben Hestley. Today's talk attempts to answer the question, why does the match look so different from practice? Ben, you ready to dive into some youth sports?
Yeah, let's talk. Let's talk.
All right. So I think I took your dive in. I'm supposed to say, are we ready to talk? And you're supposed to say,
Yeah, I was always befuzzled
yeah,
with
we
that
got it
statement
backwards.
there.
We
You
got it
can't
back.
dive in twice.
Hey, I ended us last time with sports youth talking or something. So
Yeah.
we
A
don't
lot
always get
going
it
on
right.
this time of year. Like mine's in many different
Exactly.
places.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Focus, people. Focus.
Yeah.
Today's conversation focuses on the difference between what my child, and we might stick mostly with tennis in today's conversation, but why my child or a kid I'm working with or the coach's player looks good in practice. Top spins there. We're hitting balls. We're able to get the ball across court. Whatever it is you're doing looks good in practice. You send them out to their tournament, and all of a sudden, things don't work. They don't quite look the same. It looks very different. So, Ben, why is that? What happens there?
Um, well, first I'm excited about today's conversation because I can tell you that pretty much every time that I'm in at a party or an event or something that's outside of tennis or sport, and you start talking to parents, they start talking about their kids' match, and then this very subject comes up like every single time. And as soon as it's and especially if they zero in on you as the tennis guy, the tennis coach, that oh hey, little Johnny or little Susie played a match this weekend, and it didn't look anything like their private lesson they had the day before, and why is that, and all this. So yes, this subject comes up quite a bit, and I think the jumping off point is why does it look different? And it could be what you just were mentioning is that a lot of us, as soon as the game lights come on, for most people, we go into complete survival mode, right? Like I'm just trying to survive, right? And survival mode for a tennis player is just keep the ball in the court, whatever that means. If I can just bump the ball around, push the ball around, and get the ball in the court more times than my opponent, I'm going to do well, and I'm going to win, right? And so we sacrifice a lot of the stuff we've been working on in order to win that match.
And so I sacrifice those things. So I get in there, and this is high level as well. We were having a conversation recently where during the season, if I've got a weapon, that should be a lot of my training. I should be focused on that weapon because during the season, I need to win my match. Winning matches is what matters during a season. Now, unless you're just someone who doesn't mind working on something and knowing you're going to lose, that's okay. I was working with a girl way back in the day, and she wanted a continental grip on her serve. I said, it's going to take you 6 months. It's going to take you 6 months, and you're going to double fault a lot. And she just trusted me. And she lost every match. She didn't even play it one season because she just was getting there. She was like, I'm going to do this. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to revert back to the old technique. And eventually she ended up with one of the best serves I've ever seen at her level, at what she was capable of doing, because she was really willing to put that in there. But most of us, we get out there, we just got to figure out how to win. And it doesn't matter what it looks like. And that's a bit of what we're talking about. Yeah, I'm working on my topspin when nobody's looking. Is this an observational thing? But now the score matters, and I got to go home and tell Coach Ben, how'd it go? Like, how'd it go? I was terrible. My top spin didn't work, but you didn't even use it.
Yeah, and it kind of reverts back to that kind of first episode we did, Sean, where we kind of talked about or one of the first episodes, kind of about the drive home with mom or dad and what that post match conversation is like, that post match interview, and it's kind of centered around first principles, which is like for the kid, I won, I'm a winner. I lost, I'm a loser. Right? It's very difficult for a kid, and I'm talking preteen, even teenager, to come off the court and go, "Hey, you know what? I lost 0-0, but I really I only double faulted a couple times with my new Continental Grip serve, so I'm really proud of myself for staying in there and working through it, even though the match didn't result the way I wanted to, or I didn't win the match, whatever. I feel like I really accomplished something today. There's not a lot of people that can do that. Not a lot of kids that can say that, and certainly not a lot of parents that can say that, because what the parent will do is they'll say, "Well, you lost this match. Why did you lose this match?" Right? Not giving them the confidence to go out there and just try something, or this is an opportunity in competition to work on something. Or sorry, I say it like this: this is an opportunity to try something in a competitive setting that you've been working on.
So how do we, is there an in between? Like, how do we go from I'm working on something in my lessons, I'm getting better, I need to figure out how to use it in my matches, but I'm not there yet. How do we go from one to the other? What's in between those two? Is it as obvious as practice matches? Is that the direction we're going?
That's one of the tips. I mean, that's one of the suggestions. I like to think of it. I like what you just said about like moving from the practice court to the match court, and I like to think of it as a continuum. And as a coach, anytime you're working with a player, you have the continuum of how you can approach these working on these skills. And the continuum is all the way on the left, let's say, is a closed skill, like truly closed, zero variables. And all the way to the right of this continuum is truly open skill, or sorry, truly open environment, right? Which would be the real match competition, like tournament or Alta match, or USTA junior team tennis match, like that, like the formal competition. That's all the way on the right. Okay. And then we have this whole continuum in between of that we can choose to work on our skills with the kid in order to help them develop. So think about like just your example of just hand tossing balls to kids and getting them to hit top spin. That would be truly closed, right? There's no variables, not a lot that can happen in that situation, right? And then from there, we can kind of move to where, all right, maybe we are still feeding as the coach, but we're going to randomize it a bit, right? I'll feed you one to your, off to your side, or one way back and you have to retreat back, or one way up and you got to move forward. And you still got to try to set up and execute your top spin forehand, but I'm varying the feed a little bit. Um, that's sometimes why I like kids to feed to each other, because they're gonna
They're bad at
inadvertently
it.
do that, right? So they're gonna, yeah, it's they're gonna inadvertently do that, and so that'll get that variable practice they need. And then from there, you move more to like cooperative rallying. So we're rallying, but we're trying to execute the skill of topspin. I'm just use this as an example. We're trying to execute the topspin forehand or a topspin backhand in a rally situation, but it's cooperative, right? The other person is trying to help us out. Um, and then kind of start moving towards a match play situation that's what I call like closed parameters, or maybe incentive based play. So for you, Sean, you might say, okay, if you, let's use the Continental Grip girl, for example, like if the girl she worked on her Continental Grip for serve, if she executes that, then or maybe you do this, maybe you give her three serves, right? So you instead of just the standard two serves, we're going to play a match, but you're going to get three serves, so you get an extra chance to get that continental serve in. If you get the serve in using continental, you get a point. And then maybe if you win the point, you get a point as well, right? So play to 10, and I do this all the time, because I'll do like I'll have either usually for me it's not necessarily technical, it's like a tactical. So like, okay, Sean, we're trying to get you to serve the ball out wide to move the opponent off the court, and I'll put like some throwdown lines. If you serve and land it in this box, so I'll have the service box, but then we have a separate inside the service box, we have another target zone. If you land it in the target zone, you get 1 point, and then if you win the point, you get another point, and we'll play a 10. And oftentimes, like, it'll be like 9-4, and the server's like, hey, if I just hit the target, that's 10, right, coach? I win. I don't even have to worry about this point. So that's like a closed parameter or incentive-based play type of match situation. It still looks like a match, but as the coach, you're sort of fixing the situation to whatever it is that you want the kid to learn.
And that's going to be in a lesson format, but having us play against each other as the kids. And then also we've got as example the T2 league for the high school players. That's such a good even next step to be able to say, hey, there's no consequences. You're not winning anything other than a bag tag and woohoo. But it's there's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't cost you anything when you win, you lose. It's not a tournament setting. It is just a way that you can go out and get some matches in without that same kind of pressure. And is that maybe then the next step? Say, okay, I'm playing my unique schedule of games with my coaches to say, hey, I only get one serve, or I get three serves, or
Yeah.
I get extra points if I can win a point at the net. We played the 4-2-1 where you win the point from the baseline in the middle, or a volley, whatever it is. So we've got ways to make those adjustments as coaches. But as a parent, I'm going to send my kid out and say, hey, you need some matches, but I really need you to not care about this one in the same way. I really want you to work on the things that you're supposed to be doing. How do I, as a parent, and maybe that's the real question here, how do I, as a parent or even the coach, convince the player, a child, a social player, whoever it is, how do I convince them, hey, don't worry about the win or the loss here. Just work on what you're working on. How do we help them figure that out?
I think you have to set performance goals and you have to write them down. I've had kids have them in their bags and or wherever, or sometimes you can take uh like a label maker, right? And you label it to their like Continental Grip. You label it to put that label on their throat of their racket, so there's a constant reminder.
Oh, that's
But it
fun.
has to be concrete, right? Because you can't go like, I mean, I've done this before. I've done this before as a 42-year-old adult in an Alta match on a Saturday, going, "Hey, I'm just out here to get some exercise. It's just this fun. I'm just. This is nothing. This is nothing. This doesn't mean anything. It's men's Alta on a Saturday morning. I'm gonna, I'm gonna just get some exercise and have
How
some
long?
beers.
How long did that last?
Yeah, 2 points, right?" And I'm like,
Exactly.
kidding me? Come on. And you're like, what am I? And you're like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like you know, uh, I'm totally past my competitive era of tennis. This is supposed to be recreational and fun. And like, why am I getting so intense about this? So if it's hard for somebody who's been there and done it, right? Moving up through juniors, through college, then how hard is it going to be to turn that switch off for a newbie player, not a newbie player, maybe a newbie competitor,
Yeah.
right? You can't tell a 12-year-old, that's like, oh, hey, just play some T2 and
Do me
the
do me a favor.
match.
Don't care.
Yeah, no, they care. They really care.
Uh-huh.
And that's what makes this concept so hard, because even practice matches they care. I mean, I recommend kids go play each other all the time, and we live in an area where you're in the neighborhood, so hey, this kid lives 6 houses down from you, right? And the courts are in between your houses. Like, go play a practice match, and they go play a practice match, and they're dogging it, and they're fighting, and they're clawing, and it's really intense. We sacrifice some of the technical components because they want to beat each other. They want to beat their buddy. And when
Winning's
the
winning.
match is over, they're good friends and all, but it's that's what makes this so hard, is that you can't just tell a kid or a parent, like, hey, don't worry about this. Don't worry about this one. Like, this one, we're just trying to work on our forehand, or this one, we're trying to get you to go to the net more. Okay. So what you do is you set specific goals for the player that they have to achieve. And that takes the pressure off the scoreboard so much, and because they have something very concrete in front of them that they're working on.
All right. So before I ask my last question and get you to actually answer this, I've got a tangent I want to bring in just for fun. Do you think the professional players do this? every once in a while I look up and I see somebody just serving and volleying for a whole match, and I see a top five player lose to kind of I won't say a nobody, but lose to somebody you haven't heard of before. And everybody's like, oh no, so and so lost. But I was pretty sure they were really just working on something. Do you think that actually happens, or am I crazy thinking I've seen that on say onto television?
In like lower level or not lower
No, I'm
level. Yeah,
talking top five in the world. I think Novak every once in a while loses a match because you know what? Wimbledon's coming up and he's got to hit
yeah,
just
yeah. Certainly, that's when I call them a warm up tournament at a
as
different
many
tournament.
volleys as
Yeah,
possible.
yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The other thing that they're planning, the other thing that those guys are planning to do is that we don't often get to in junior tennis because we don't. I mean, we don't have video of other kids, and we don't. I mean, even in college tennis, it's kind of tough. I mean, some coaches do it, but in college tennis, you have a lineup. So I don't know. Like this week, I might be. I played this team once, and I was number two. And the next week, coach moved me to number four singles. So I play a different guy. Like it's kind of hard. But in pro tennis, there is a matchup thing. So what they might be trying to do is not just like see if how good Novak is at coming to the net, but they might see it as coming to the net against this guy
Mm.
working. And if we do have to face him at Wimbledon, we want to be prepared and we want to have a game plan for what, or maybe not, maybe it's complete opposite. Like you're not even I don't want him to see my true game at the high level. So maybe I'll play a little different. I mean,
The John Isner serve. Don't show your
yeah, I mean, it could
like
could
all
kind
the
of be like
Americans
that.
had a better chance to play again to win against John Isner because they saw his serve all the time in practice where none of the other
Yeah,
guys did. You want to
yeah.
hide that weapon maybe.
Yeah, and so it's like I remember playing a match, a USTA junior tournament years ago, and the guy never made a serve the whole warm up. Like he never
Mm.
made a serve. I was like, this guy's terrible. I'm gonna smoke this guy. But then we get in the match, and all of a sudden he's just blitzing serves. I'm like, oh, where was this?
Mm-hmm. An easy
So
way
I don't.
to win your first service game.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't seen your serve the whole time, but
Right.
I do think there is something to that in professional tennis. I think they are.
And maybe that's just the larger picture. Now, my 11-year-old early tournament player may not quite get the larger picture, but if you can have
Yeah.
that conversation and say, hey, look, this match, some matches are more important than others, and not every kid's going to be able to handle that. I'm guessing a young Rafa you're not going to convince him that any point is more or less important.
Well, it's worse. It's worse now, because of the point system. Trying to get into the next tournament. If I'm playing USTA, I'm trying to get a number of points so I can get to the next level of tournament. If I'm UTR, I'm trying to get my UTR up. So
Mm-hmm.
every match, and they kind of target it like every match is important. Every match. So it's hard to do that now because you can't just. I mean, if you're somebody who's a points chaser or UTR, you're trying to get your UTR up, and a lot of academies now use UTR as a baseline for training. Like you have to be between a 3 and 5 UTR to be in this group, or you have to be at least a two UTR to even get into our academy,
Yeah.
or whatever. So it's harder to use tournament matches as development practice, like skill development practice,
Right.
because there is this pressure to kind of continue to move up the ladder, so to speak.
All right. So answer the question for me. What is the way? How do I get from practice to a match? What's in between to get me there? You said there's a continuum, but
You got to use the continuum, right? You can't go from private lesson dead ball feeding 1,000 forehands to I'm going to execute that in a match. It doesn't happen that way, and that's the problem with tennis. We taught it that way for years, and that's always been the issue. You have to move along that continuum. Okay, I'm learning this new skill. All right. And we go from closed to open is a better way to look at it. Closed skill. I'm just feeding you balls, spoon feeding you balls so you can hit forehands and learn how to hit topspin. Now I'm just gonna move that along that continuum and grow towards what a match situation looks like. All right. And that's what you have to do. You have to start with a skill, work that skill, drill that skill, but push that skill towards what would happen in a real match. And
there we
and that's
go.
how you develop players. Yeah.
And parents, if you're watching, if you play, the ladies, we've both worked in country clubs. You feed the ball, the coach gives you the perfect forehand. You think you're good at tennis. You go out and all of a sudden you're chasing the ball around and nothing feels the same. Sometimes the coach can do you a disservice by making those lessons too closed and
Yeah.
not opening it up enough. You're not playing enough practice matches. Number one, we're probably not practicing enough in general. We take our lesson, we have maybe a team practice, and then we go play on Thursday
Yeah.
morning. Or the
Exactly.
junior takes his one lesson a week. Maybe he's in an academy twice a week, but 3 days is great. It's never enough. It never feels like enough. Then you get into your tournament, and are you really ready? So that continuum, I think, is a great answer. Adults, even the same thing. You know what, guys? Go practice. Go call a friend and say, hey, I need to play a set. Let's play some doubles. Let's practice so I can find out what's going to happen. Even if you're all back in town Friday night, guys, come back in town Friday night, get together, play a set, then get ready for your Saturday morning. Sorry, that wasn't youth sports talk, but I had to say it. Ben,
All right. Hey, we have parent players who are watching, hopefully. So we're here to help you
not
as
a lot
well.
of 7-year-olds watching this on YouTube, I guess. But if you are a high 7-year-old, Ben, youth sports talk, thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Have a great week, everybody.